Hello, everybody, and welcome back to 50 Shades of Tay. I'm Taylor Gonzalez, and my guest today is the director of the upcoming horror film Bambi The Reckoning. I'm so excited to be joined by Dan Allen. Dan, how are you doing today?
Very good, thank you. Very good. How you doing?
Oh, good, thanks. I am so excited for your film to come out, and we were just talking about how within less than a week we're going to be together at the AMC
I
in
mean,
Burbank and doing our
yeah,
live Q&A. So exciting.
very
Congratulations on the
exciting.
release of the film, and thank you for joining me today.
No, thank you. I'm very excited as well. It's going to be really cool to be my first time seeing it with an audience. So it's going to be ignoring some test screenings that we did, but so yeah, it's going to be very cool.
Oh, that's going to be so fun. I was going to watch a screener of the film to prep for interviews, but then
Mm.
I was like, you know what? I'm going to hold off because then I get to see it for the first time with a crowd also. And it's
Yeah,
just
yeah.
fun to see it on the big screen instead of, home alone in my living room. So I was like, I'm just going to hold off and get to experience it with everybody else.
That is the right way to watch the film. So thank you.
Hmm.
We made it for cinemas. We mixed it for cinemas. Um, like it's yeah the full experience. You want to watch it on the big screen, even though it's like an indie budget. It's a big film, is how I would describe it. Especially because it's a monster film as well. At the end of the day. So yeah, it's got a really rich sound from Ryan. Um, and great score from Greg that really just sort of make it worth watching on the cinema screen to sort of really, really get it.
Yes, no, I completely agree. The couple times that I've seen the trailer in the theater, it just looks so good. It sounds so good. So it's going to be really fun. I was very curious though. So up until this point, it's been either Reese or Scott directing
Mhm.
one of the films in the Twisted Childhood universe. So I was wondering, how did you find yourself involved with this project and getting to direct Bambi?
I begged them. I begged that. No, basically, what happened? So I've worked with Scott a few times now. I've edited a few films for him, and I've directed a couple of sort of smaller budget films. And I think Scott always liked the fact that whatever budget I was working in, I managed to sort of make it feel bigger and more expensive than it was. And I remember when I first saw Pooh announce the Blood and Honey, the first one, I messaged them being like, guys, that's so cool. Like, I really want to like edit the second one or something. Um, and I think that was before it went viral, actually. Uh, I think I just sort of knew it was such like a cool, fun concept. And then obviously it blew up. And off the back of that, obviously they got green light to do more of these films on bigger scales. And I think it just got to the point where like they realized they couldn't do all of them themselves. They knew they were going to need additional directors coming in, or at least one to come in to sort of help bring all these films to life. And Scott was originally going to do. He was originally going to do Bambi, and he was also going to do obviously Peter Pan. And then when it looked like they were going to be filming too close together, he just realized he wouldn't be able to give both his all, which, as a producer, you can sort of, even though it's very all consuming being a producer, there's like an extra sort of emotional investment and you're in every single decision at every single moment as a director. Whereas producer, hopefully, if you can put the right people in place, you can step back a little bit. So it's hard for, which I know is why it's tough for them because they're having to produce and direct at the same time on a lot of them. But yeah, I think they realized they needed someone else, and given sort of my history working with them, they asked me to do it, which was amazing. So I think I immediately said yes, and then immediately was like, "Is this?" Is this going to be a terrible idea? Not because I had no fears about the hate or anything, because I know they they got their fair share of like internet attention. It was more about if we don't get this VFX right, then we're gonna make sort of like the next Birdemic. And nothing against Birdemic, but I'm just saying the VFX in Birdemic aren't they take you out of the film is what I'm trying to say, you know? And there was a worst case scenario in my head where we tried really hard and we shot something really cinematic, but then the VFX just wasn't there, and then it sort of then makes everything else feel ironic, and then the performances feel too big, considering Bambi then looks like a 2D cutout. So there was a lot yeah, there was a lot of things that I wanted to make sure didn't happen, but yeah, it was an easy yes once I did get asked.
Oh, that is awesome. Well, that actually leads perfectly into another question I had for you.
Mhm.
Since I have not seen the movie yet, is Bambi CGI the whole film, or did you ever use anything practical like a puppet or someone in a costume or anything like that? What's the process
Mhm.
like for that?
Yeah, the no one in a costume, no one in a costume. Um, we wanted some real parts, you know. The reality is the design was still getting finalized too close to the shoot for us to get anything physically made. And also the cost of getting some bits made was just very high that we just didn't have those resources. I really wanted a head and I really wanted a hoof were important to me. Now, what we ended up doing though was getting some stand-in like a stand-in hoof and two stand-in heads that were like green screen. So they were just painted green in the rough geometry of those items so that we could have physical interactions. So we had a hoof that you could press into someone's back. There's a scene where our Bambi steps on this guy's back and also interacts with the door. So there is something physically there in the shape of a hoof, but then it's covered up by the CGI. Because I noticed that was a big thing with like really, really low budget films where you just didn't believe the physical interactions between the creatures and the people. So we wanted as many things as possible. And we used other tricks as well, like when Roxanne comes face to face with Bambi, which is in certainly in the second trailer. Um, Bambi breathes over her face and her hair all flutters. So we sort of used I think it was just one of those big reflectors, and we just sort of wafted that. And then the CGI team, like Stephanie would who modeled Bambi as well, Stephanie Belgart, she would then time the performance to those physical interactions, which I think she did really well. And there was also a few like hand puppet things we did where like if it was Bambi was gnawing at anything and t tearing away flesh, then yeah, we used that and we covered it up. We wanted to have more interaction with the head puppet, but basically like 2 days before filming, we were told we couldn't use our big, massive screen standing heads
Mm,
because we decided to scale down Bambi. And Stephanie and Ryan, who's also part of the VFX team from Boiling Point, Ryan basically said, whatever you do, do not use a stand-in that's bigger than Bambi because then it's going to call, they'll have to do loads of extra VFX to
mm.
paint out Bambi's head. And we were like, oh no, because we're scaling Bambi down. And we had the heads made to spec. We were like, well, we'll just use them as reference. So there's loads of takes somewhere in the on the hard drive of me running around carrying this head, showing what Bambi's going to do. But then we would do a take without the head. So yeah, those are all the bits we had and some of the tricks we used to sort of bring it to life.
Oh, I love getting to hear about this stuff. The hoof would have never even like crossed my
Mm,
mind that that would have been something you would want practically made because you're right. There are a lot of other, especially recent horror films where everything's so reliant on CGI that it's not
mm,
really believable that they're interacting with whatever the creature is. But
yeah.
yeah, that's really cool and really creative. So I'm glad I asked about that. I do love the design of Bambi. So can you talk a little bit about the process of how you landed exactly on how Bambi would look?
Yeah, so I mean the first step with all these sort of things is sort of finding your references, working out what it needs to be, what it not needs to be. And I suppose you start with a deer and you're like, okay, well, deers aren't inherently scary. It needs to be bigger. It needs to be more designed to kill. And that also fed into the story as well. So the without giving too much away, the loose explanation is it's mutated. So so that really the mutation that gave us free reign to do what we wanted and created something that was both vicious, scary, and yeah, just something really like gnarly that we knew we could do some cool, fun things with. Um, then we looked at other sort of quadrupedal sort of creatures. There's a great one in the ritual that we looked at that Scott had already sort of identified as a reference when he was attached to direct. Um, and that was a great reference. It sort of had some of the spinal stuff that we liked. Um, and then we knew one of the big things though is we didn't want to make it a zombie deer,
Right.
so we wanted it to still feel like a living, breathing thing. So it was sort of tearing it apart a little bit so that it looked like it had been through many battles and wars, but not so that it looked like it was undead. That was sort of a big thing we were trying to avoid.
Mhm.
Um, Even though it has almost like this, the energy of something that's risen from the dead on a vengeance, it hasn't died. And we wanted it to feel, yeah, like a living, breathing thing, especially as you'll see in the film, how we perceive Bambi changes over the movie without giving too much away. Um, so yeah, those were sort of the big things. I can't remember, we went back and forth a few times about which way its back legs bent to be mo interesting and unsettling. I think they bend the opposite way to what deer legs bend. But there's a chance we then changed them on and went back. I can't remember. I remember we played around a lot with that for Bambi.
Oh, very cool. I can't wait to see this on the big screen. It's going to be so much
Mm,
fun. Can we talk about the tone of the film? Because this is something
mhm,
that Scott and I have talked about with other films like Blood and Honey 2 and
mm,
Neverland Nightmare, that they all seem to have a different tone, but then they all work together because they're all in the same universe. How did
mhm.
you decide on the tone for this film?
Yeah, it's a good question. Honestly, it's like one of my favorite thing about the Poohniverse. It sort of reminds me of like the early Marvel days when you had all these, or sort of that early mid period, sort of phase two, when you started to get these films that were all really different flavors, but you knew they were all contributing towards a bigger picture. Um, for Bambi, it felt we knew we wanted it to be an emotional film because we think the source text is inherently sad. And if you're gonna try and make any of them a tearjerker, you're gonna try and go for Bambi really, to be as faithful as possible. So we knew we wanted it to be emotional, which sort of lends into what I like to do. I quite like finding those nice sort of tender human moments. So it really became quite a tender emotional story, but then completely wrapped up in this sort of like monster roller coaster. So the experience is completely sort of like non-stop action packed, but then at the heart of it is this sort of like dark, moody, tender film, which is what I like bringing to stories. But yeah, just making sure it was dark and gritty, which is obviously that's sort of the crossover with all of them. But then I wanted it to have an even more ferocious pace than the others as well. So we just kept cutting. Whilst we were still working on the VFX, I used that extra time to just refine, and just get it to. I was trying to go for TikTok energy, is what I was trying to do. So like, if someone put it on in the corner of the room, and you saw a bit of it, you're like, oh, okay, I need to know what happens next. Okay, now I need to know what happens next after that. So the pace almost became part of the energy and the tone of the piece as well, alongside these emotional beats, while still having there's still those comedic moments though. There's still those fun moments that you can't make Bambi killing people and ripping people's heads off without having a bit of or a strong like wink to the audience and being like, we know what this is.
Mhm.
So there are some good moments like that sort of really break through. But the overall experience is, yeah, sort of like action roller coaster with emotional beats.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, I love the way you put it that they're their own flavor and then they all combine together
Yeah.
for the larger Poohniverse. So when I was looking through your IMDb, I noticed you've directed several other horror projects, including The Mime and
Mhm.
Mummy Reborn. What is your favorite thing about working in the horror genre?
Yeah, so the mime, um, that's a fun little short if anyone gets 3 minutes to sort of watch it. Although someone copied it, can you believe it? This guy, I'm not even joking, he copied the film, the story, the character, the duration of the film, the setup, the premise. I'm not even joking. If you now search The Mime on YouTube, someone else's film comes up and
Oh
he's
my
made a bunch of
gosh.
sequels. I know. I've never spoken about this before either, because I don't like being vindictive. And I tried to message being like, come on, dude. But he literally didn't respond to my messages. So yeah, but I love that movie, man. Like, so search The Mime Dan Allen and you'll see my one, which I think has a lot more sort of like tone and horror feel to it. Um, the I mean, I like creating cinematic experiences. I like taking people to a place and making them feel as much as possible. And horror for me is the best vehicle for really sort of taking someone outside their comfort zone and taking them to another place. And the best thing is that it can be a place that's both familiar yet completely sort of magical and turned on its head. I think that's why we like ghost stories because we're like, you hear about a window left o or a window that constantly opens every night, and you're like, I have windows.
Mhm.
I have windows in my house. Oh my God, that could happen to my house. So it's sort of taking the familiar, but then having an element of magical in it and having a really strong sort of moral sense of like good and evil. Um, so yeah, I think that's what I love. And also it lets you push your characters in a way that if you're doing a drama, it's really hard to take your characters from like A to X. You almost can have to take them to A, B, C, D, E, F because to do it convincingly without it becoming just unfollowable melodrama is quite tough. Whereas in horror, you can challenge them in really profound ways that are really genuine and authentic, but at the same time, they um they they're exciting and they're really sort of pushing, and you can push your characters to the extreme.
Mhm. No, completely agree with you. So now that Bambi is about to release and join the larger Poohniverse, is there a character, whether it's someone who's been in a movie or something that hasn't come out yet, that you're most looking forward to seeing Bambi interact with?
Whoa. I mean, the iconic image, which I think I suggested to Reese, and I'm glad they sort of like rendered on that poster
Yeah.
is Pooh riding Bambi is sort of the iconic moment. I think a lot of the fans of the Poohniverse are sort of excited to see, as am I very strongly. Um, so yeah, I'm pumped for that. I think having just some of the other characters experience, like the other good guys experience Bambi, I think is quite an exciting prospect because it's one thing to have sort of like Pooh, this sort of like humanoid thing, or this serial killer,
Mm,
but to be confronted with what really, if you come face to face with this is a monster. This is a giant monster. I think is quite a profound awakening for human characters. So I'm excited for them to witness Bambi. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I'm in my head. I'm playing out all the interactions. I can't imagine Pinocchio meeting Bambi. I can't even see it yet. We'll see, because you'll see where Pinocchio is a very cheeky chappy. So putting them two in the same scene would be absolutely hilarious. So maybe that actually, because it's the one I can imagine the least.
mhm.
So therefore, actually, would be the most exciting to witness.
Mm. All right, yeah, all of that sounds very exciting to me. I can't wait to see everything that's to come. But Dan, I can't thank you enough for taking the time out of your day today
All
to
right.
join me. Congratulations on the upcoming release of the film. Everybody be sure to get your tickets now to Bambi The Reckoning, which will be in theaters July 25th. Dan, thank you so much, and I hope you have a great
Thank you.
day.
Cheers. Thank you. And we still got a couple of tickets left, I think, for the Saturday Q&A as
Oh,
well.
yeah, perfect. Yeah, Dan and I will be at the AMC Burbank Town Center 8 on the 25th doing a live in-person Q&A sold out. But the following night, the 26th, same theater, same time, there's a few tickets left, so go get those while they're still there. Thank you so much, Dan,
Perfect.
and congratulations.
Cheers. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thanks for chatting with me.
Bye.
Bye.